Oh, yan. I'll unmute. Oh. At RE/MAX, we are leading the way as a business that builds businesses. We are RE/MAX, and when it comes to the name and the sales, we are #1 in the world.
We are leaders. If you want to be part of something remarkable, there's no question, RE/MAX is the place to be.
We are productive. When you walk among top producers, feeling inspired to grow your business is only natural. For the 9th straight year, RE/MAX agents averaged double the sales of other agents in the RealTrends 500 survey of large brokerages.
We are worldwide. More than 120,000 agents are part of our network, which spans over 110 countries and territories on 6 continents. All over the world, RE/MAX agents translate global connections into sold.
We have brand power. Awareness, traffic, and lead activity can help develop your business. From video and television to radio, digital sponsorship, and more, the RE/MAX name is out there working for you.
We have the technology. Acquired by RE/MAX in 2018, Bouge and their experts have taken our tech to the next level. Together, we're delivering the tools and training to help you stay focused on offering superior customer service.
We have on-demand education. With the push of a button, you can stream over 1,000 videos and more than 70 designations and certifications on both mobile and desktop from RE/MAX University. The more you learn, the more you earn.
We have big-time networking events. Great things happen when RE/MAX agents get together. From the unforgettable R4 convention on the Vegas Strip to international niche events, you'll have next-level access to invaluable learning and networking opportunities worldwide.
We inspire miracles. Over the past 27 years, RE/MAX agents have helped Children's Miracle Network hospitals support millions of kids each year in more than 170 hospitals throughout North America. What's more, 100% of all RE/MAX agent donations stay local.
We are here for you. At RE/MAX, we stay #1 because we believe in doing more. We deliver to the max. We are customer obsessed. We do the right thing. And together, everybody wins.
We are RE/MAX, a business that builds businesses.
See for yourself at joinremax.com.
We are revolutionizing the real estate industry. A lot of people are trying to achieve new heights, so I can't wait to see what they accomplish at the year end of 2020.
What I love about being part of the RE/MAX community is the continuous learning, the people in it, credibility of the brand.
The brand recognition really helps. Conversations are easier. Secondly, the network. Definitely the network is composed of the top brokers in the Philippines.
With the right partners and the right associates, that's why we achieve this.
If you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Mabuhay Philippines!
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Reagan, Senior Vice President for Industry Relations and Global Growth and Development for RE/MAX World Headquarters in Denver, Colorado. I would like to invite you to join us for the RE/MAX Philippines Facebook Live program as I discuss global real estate trends post-COVID-19. We are going to talk about some of the creativity and innovations shared by real estate professionals around the world and some of the changes that we're seeing in our industry, not only here in the U.S., but everywhere in the world. And we will hear from great RE/MAX leaders and some of the processes they put in place that will change our industry forever. So please join us on Wednesday, July 8th at 1 p.m. Philippine time. And make sure to follow the RE/MAX Philippines Facebook page for updates at official RE/MAX PH. See you then.
Hi everyone, good afternoon and welcome to Remax Rediscover Real Estate webinar. So I am Miguel Naval, Business Dev Consultant of Remax Philippines, and I will be your host today. So I'd like to greet a few people before we start. So I'm seeing people comment already now. So hi Eddie, hi Juliet, hi Cheryl, hi Lolly, hi Sir Glennis. Welcome to Rediscover. Please, everyone who's watching now, feel free to comment, feel free to share this. And let's begin. So, Rediscover is an initiative of Remax Philippines to invite the best speakers around the globe to discuss real estate topics that affect our industry. This is aligned with Remax's mission to maximize, to learn, and improve the real estate industry in the country. And for the month of July, we've invited Mr. Mike Reagan, Senior VP of Industry Relations and Global Growth and Development at the Remax World Headquarters in Denver. And in this webinar, Mike will provide insights into lessons learned during the COVID-19 pandemic, global trends, and how the real estate industry is pivoting into a more successful and into the new normal. But before we get to that, let me give you all a brief background of who we are, who Remax is, and what we do. So what is Remax Philippines? Remax is number one in the world. We are one of the largest real estate companies in the world with 110 countries, 8,600 offices around the globe, and 130,000 of the best agents around the globe. And it doesn't stop there. We're expanding in the Philippines, Remax Philippines. We do have 33 offices here, all the way from Baguio to all the way to Siargao. And we have 240 and more and growing as of today, 240 of the best real estate professionals around the Philippines. And how did this all start? So just to give you a brief background, it all started back in 1973 through a dream or because of the dream of these two people, Dave Liniger and his wife. And how it all started was because he himself was an agent and he felt that he wanted to maximize his career. He wanted to maximize his options. He wanted the best out of what he does and what he can do in his career. And since then, almost 5 decades later, he's expanded in the globe this vision to maximize real estate. So you may ask how he started that. He coined first the term at the very start, REMAX, Real Estate Maximums. Yes, that's what it stands for. So now we do all know what REMAX stands for, Real Estate Maximums, maximizing the real estate industry and maximizing your profession through brand building, through a network and training, through tech tools and office support, and so much more. There is a lot to offer. And when I say maximizing your career, I mean maximizing your real estate career in whatever you do, from being good to great to even to being the best you can be in your career, and in whatever facet or stage you are in your career. Whether you are starting out as a salesperson and wanting to improve your salesperson or your salesmanship in real estate, you could be an established real estate broker or even own your own brokerage, and you still want to improve. You want to be with the best. You want to work with the best, because only the great get the great. Only the best. To be the best, you got to learn with the best. So in whatever facet of your career, we're ready to maximize it. Whether you're a salesperson, again, whether you're your own real estate, you're a real estate broker who's been in the business maybe 10, 15 years, real estate, or you have your own real estate brokerage, Remax will maximize that. So again, that's a little bit about us. So Remax Philippines, the real estate professionals. But if you do and want to learn more about us, about expanding with us, our vision to improve, to maximize your career, please contact us at info@remax.ph. Whether you have your own real estate brokerage, feel free to contact us. Whether you're an agent looking for better opportunities, more opportunities to grow your career and maximize what you have to offer, please don't hesitate to contact us at info@remax.ph. We will consult with you. We can discuss how we can improve your career. So that's it for that. And now, please join me as we start and as we welcome our first speaker for today. He's actually our partner. Our partner is Nook, It is the Philippines' first online mortgage brokerage. They help people get into the right home loan in order to buy their dream home. And here to briefly discuss that and about mortgage and their service, let me welcome on screen Mr. Chris Elder, President and CEO of Nook. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Miguel. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, are you ready to discuss?
We are.
Got it. All right. So we'll put up we'll put up Chris's slides, and later on we can ask him questions if there are any. All right.
Great. Thanks, Miguel.
Go,
Right.
Chris.
So this afternoon, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the new partnership between Nook and Remax. But I'll actually spend the majority of the time discussing exactly what a mortgage broker like Nook does. Despite the fact that this is a global multi-billion-dollar industry, it's still a new concept in the Philippines. So we'll talk about that and how we help borrowers make the right financial decisions, and also how we get a home loan in the quickest and simplest way possible in the marketplace. So if we can go to the first slide. I think we're at the end there. We're at the end. So we'll first start with exactly what a mortgage broker is, because that's the question we get asked the most. And as we do that, we'll discuss a little bit about the Nook process and the technology that we use to streamline the home loan process. Then we'll kind of zoom out a little bit and we'll look at mortgage brokering internationally so everyone can understand the context of what we're doing here. Then we'll wrap up with a quick discussion of our current bank partners and more about Nook and our Remax partnership. So moving to the next slide, we'll talk about exactly what a mortgage broker is, and that's an easy one to explain to real estate brokers, because a real estate broker sells real estate and a mortgage broker sells mortgages. That's about as simple as it gets. So generally with a real estate broker, they're selling someone else's property and they get a commission when they sell that. Similarly, for a mortgage broker, they're selling someone else's financial product, and when they do sell it, they'll get a commission. So it's a fairly basic definition of it. So if we move to the next slide, we'll dig into that a little bit more. So a mortgage broker is a company like Nook, and they've established partnerships with multiple banks, and that forms what's called their lending panel. And then they act as an intermediary between those banks and home loan borrowers, because they can speak the language of the borrower and they can speak the language of the bank and bridge that gap. And then what they do is they help the borrowers find the right loan for them. And with Nook, we use technology to make that as quick and as easy as possible. And then we wrap it up by working with the lender to get the loan approved in the quickest time frame possible. If we move to the next slide, we'll look at that graphically. So you in this context is the borrower, and they want to buy a property. And rather than take time out of work and travel from bank to bank to bank and line up and speak to someone and get requirements and get a loan application form, and then try to manually compare a financial product, which is not an easy thing to do, instead of doing all that, they just simply go to a mortgage broker. Now, a mortgage broker has got a good bird's eye view of the entire housing loan industry. So they're able to help the borrower identify the right loan for them quickly. And then once they do that, they also make sure that the borrower is qualified to lend, because there's very little point in submitting a loan application if you're not qualified to lend in the first place. So we do all that, and then we work with the bank to get the loan approved and the loan paid out. Now, the majority of this relationship's time is spent between the borrower and Nook, because as I said, we qualify the borrower first to make sure that they can get the loan before we go to too much trouble. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see the three-step process that we take the borrower through. So we can go to the next slide. So here, I'll talk through each one of them to make sense, but we go through pre-qualification, loan application, and bank approval. Now, the first step is the most important step, and this is the step that's generally missing in markets like the Philippines without mortgage brokers. So pre-qualification is where we match the borrower to the criteria of the bank. So what we're doing is we're pre-qualifying them to make sure that they're going to be able to get the loan before they submit the loan application. So this process takes no more than 3 minutes, and the result of that, if we move to the next slide, looks a little bit like this. So what we're seeing here is not just a random list of banks and their monthly amortization rate. This is actually our technology's algorithm filtering all the banks based on the borrower's criteria. So we're matching the borrower to the bank that they fit. So what this means is if the borrower is seeing a bank in this list, it means that they're 90+% sure of being able to get the loan from that bank. So what we're doing here is we're shopping around and we're comparing banks apples for apples, which is not something that can be done if you're doing the process manually. Because we know we're already qualified now with these banks, there is no need to submit multiple loan applications. We can compare the banks, choose the right one for us, and then apply for just one bank. So if we move to the next slide, that's where we move to the loan application. So now that at this stage, we know which banks we're qualified to lend from, we know how much it's going to cost us each month, now we're choosing which bank we're going to go with, and then this process is simply a matter of data and document collection. And again with Nook, we streamline this process through technology. And there's a lot we could show with that, but if we move to the next slide, I can show just one sample of this. And this is a little bit hard to read, so I'll talk you through it. This is part of the Nook platform, and this is where the documentation is collected all in one place. And here we've got the legal documents at the top, we've got income documents, and we've got collateral documents. So these are all the scanned copies that the bank will need. Really important to note is that this is completely dynamic, and this will depend on the borrower's circumstances and the bank that they're applied for. So for example, the income documents of a self-employed person, they will see something totally different to someone who is self-employed, who is employed with government or private. Likewise with the collateral documents, that will completely change if you're doing a construction loan versus a ready for occupancy. So a couple of other things to note here is that we've got percentage indicators in each one of the sections. So at the top, this sample account is 83% of the way through the legal documents. Now, psychology tells us that if people know how close they are to the finish line, they are much more likely to be motivated to finish the project. This is part of the reason of why we can get a home loan done much quicker. Not only that, but there's also the Nook home loan consultant that pushes them through the process very quickly. The other thing to note is on the right-hand side, each one of these documents are being approved or rejected as they're being uploaded by the Nook staff in accordance with the bank requirements. So when we actually do submit the loan to the bank, there is no surprises. We've already checked every piece of documentation to make sure it's correct. The other final thing to note about this is that we're viewing what the borrower sees in their Nook account, but obviously Nook staff also have their own view. By the end of this year, our banking partners will also have their own portal as well. So if for whatever reason the bank wants to see another piece of documentation, the minute the borrower scans that with their phone and uploads it to the portal, the bank, the borrower, and Nook all see the same documentation live and in real time. So again, we're speeding up the home loan process as much as possible. So moving on to the next slide, we then move it over to the bank for approval. Now, as you can see, Nook has already done the majority of the work for the bank. And in fact, one of our banking partners has done an analysis on what Nook does for it. And they say that Nook will save them over a full day's processing because of all the process that we take a borrower through. Now, if we contrast that, if we move to the next slide, we'll look at what the market looks like now without Nook. And you'll notice there is no pre-qualification process. So therefore, the borrower is a little bit blind in terms of which banks will actually truly approve them. Now, every bank does promote that they have age and income requirements, and there are some requirements there that they promote, but the list goes on and on and on, much more than that. So, for example, some banks like BPO workers, some don't like BPO workers. Some only like them if they've been in a managerial position. Some banks don't like OFWs in war-torn countries. Some banks have a debt-to-income ratio of 30%. Some it's 40%. So this criteria goes on and on and on, and without Nook's technology, it's very difficult to understand it. So therefore, when borrowers apply for a loan, they think they're qualified and they actually do get rejected, they're quite surprised. So without Nook, what the borrower has to do is take a shotgun approach and apply to as many banks as possible. And that takes a very long time. In the meantime, the borrower, the buyer, the seller, and the broker all sit around and wait for the bank to approve the loan which is a very long and tedious process. We've moved to the next slide. So obviously some quick key advantages. Obviously it's an advantage to find out which banks you're qualified to lend from in a matter of minutes rather than days or weeks. And there's no shopping around from bank to bank anymore because all housing loans are in the one place. And because they're all in the one place, people are able to make better financial decisions because they can compare banks much easier. It's much more transparent. Obviously, not having to travel to a bank in a post-COVID-19 world is also an advantage to them. They can do this entire process from the comfort of their home. And with Nook, there's no loan application fee. So if a borrower was to walk into a bank, they would have to pay some sort of filing fee or processing fee or application fee. But with Nook, that's waived, and our services are completely free for the borrower. So moving on. So that's a little bit about Nook. That's a bit about our technology. Now zooming out now to give you some context about this around the world. If we move to the next slide, you'll see that mortgage brokering is a completely separate multi-billion-dollar industry in most Western countries. They're the main housing loan referrer in America, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the UK. So apart from Nook's technology, we actually haven't invented anything new here. We're bringing an already successful and already proven industry. We're just bringing that to a new market. So it's just that this is a new concept to the Philippines, but it actually has been around for decades. And if we move to the next slide, we'll look at Australia as an example, where 60% of all housing loans go through a mortgage broker, not directly to the bank. And it's important to note that the remaining 40% is primarily borrowers refinancing with their existing bank to get a better deal. So what we're effectively saying is that it's very rare in other countries for people to walk into a bank branch and get a loan. And you'll see that over the coming years, not today, not tomorrow, not sort of 6 months, but over the next 2, 3, 4 years, Nook will slowly start to change the housing loan market in the Philippines, just as the same as it has done around the world. So moving to the next slide. And one more slide again, and we'll see our current banking partners. So Nook either has most of the top 10 either as a partner or in discussions to become a partner. And by this time next year, we'll have approximately 15 banking partners on our lending panel. So the more banking partners we have, the more choice that we give a borrower, the more choice we give them, the more opportunity that they have to find the right loan for them. So effectively within a 12-month period, coming to Nook will be like visiting 15 banks instantaneously. So next slide. Okay, so just wrapping up a little bit more about Nook. So obviously we know that banks don't exactly make housing loans easy, and this seems to be a bit of a global problem. So what Nook is really doing is we're taking the complex and we're making it very, very simple, or as simple as possible. And that means that we're able to help people make better financial decisions for them and their families. If we move to the next slide, we'll see exactly what we're doing for the real estate industry. So for the real estate industry, we're helping to minimize lost sales due to bank financing. And also a growing area for us is property developers who are reaching out to Nook at the moment. Where we fit really nicely with property developers is for those buyers that are coming towards the end of their rent-to-own payment plan. Sometimes property developers are telling us that they're expecting money at sort of month 25, but the buyer still hasn't secured a housing loan. So we're starting to work with property developers at month 9 months out from when they need a housing loan to ensure that the property developer gets the money that they're expecting on time. And finally, and this sort of leads us into the RE/MAX partnership, we provide real estate agents and brokers with another source of income for them from commission referrals. So when a broker has a buyer and they need a housing loan, simply referring them to Nook will entitle them to some commission. And RE/MAX have negotiated a commission with Nook that's 2.5 times higher than the industry average. So for every successful loan that Nook gets, for the commission that we get from the banks, we are giving 25% of our total income to RE/MAX professionals for just simply referring the name and details. So what we're saying is that RE/MAX professionals can help their buyers make better financial decisions, and Nook will completely handle the tedious task of the home loan application. So Miguel, I think that's sort of wraps us up for today. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Chris. So great. It is, I love how your goal is similar to ours, to help Filipinos make better financial decisions and make the most out of their experience in real estate. No? So thank you again, Chris. Thank you so much. Hope to see you again. And again, I just like to mention Nook's website. If you have any questions, you can, or anything else you want to learn about, please do go to www.nook.com.ph. And again, as Chris mentioned, we do have a special partnership with Nook. So if you need more details on that, please feel free also to ask the RE/MAX headquarters or ask us here in our office. So thank you again, Chris. Thank you so much for being here and having us as your partner. All right. Bye, Chris. All right. Thank you so much. So now for the main part of the webinar. So why we're all here. So first, I'd like to introduce our speaker. So our speaker is Mike Reagan, and he joined RE/MAX as director in 1990 and was named as vice president in 1992. In February 2019, he was named senior vice president, industry relations and global growth and development, and became responsible for promoting the RE/MAX brand all over the world. Today, he leads global development for RE/MAX LLC, with franchise operations in 110 countries and territories around the world, including RE/MAX of Western Canada region. He also leads the RE/MAX Collection, which serves affluent buyers and sellers from around the world, and RE/MAX Commercial, which under his direction has grown into one of the top 15 commercial brokerages globally. So let me welcome, without further ado, Mr. Mike Reagan.
Hi, Miguel. How are you?
Hi, Mike. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for the invitation.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you, Mike. And I do know you are based in Denver, Colorado. Am I correct?
That's right. Beautiful Colorado.
Beautiful Colorado. So it is what time in Denver?
Almost 11:30 on Tuesday night. So yeah, it's great to be with you, though.
All right, all right. So we very much appreciate you spending your time, spending a weeknight with us to talk about our global trends. But before I let you go on, I'd just like to remind all our viewers out there, when posting on social media, please make sure to tag us at official RE/MAX PH, so you can see it here below, and use our hashtag rediscover or our hashtag RE/MAX PH, or both. All right. And also, if you have any questions for Mike and about his presentation, please continue to type them as he goes along on the comment section, whether you're on Facebook, so that should be down below, or wherever you're watching us. And we will address them later on towards the end of the program. So that's all my reminders. So we can go on. And so thank you, Mike. Here, the screen is yours.
Miguel, thank you very much. Well, it's an honor to be with you, and I wish we were together in the Philippines. That would be a dream come true, to be with you in person. But you know, in this crazy world that we're in, this is how we get to meet. So, yeah, I'm going to share some insights and some of the lessons we've learned over the last few months. You know, the role of our global development team. We've been a lot like air traffic controllers, with a lot of airplanes in the air, and everybody's at a different status and a lot of activity. And not sure where every one was going to land, but I'll share some stories and some insights as we go through. So let's go ahead to that first slide, and we'll talk a little bit about the RE/MAX. So yeah, I joined in 1990, and quite honestly, when I met the founders, Dave and Gail Leniger, you know, I asked them, what does RE/MAX look like in the future? There were about 17,000 agents in 2 countries at that time. And Mr. Leniger said to me, words that I will never forget, I think of every day, is that we're going to change the way real estate is done around the world. And I can tell you, in my 30 years, having a number of different positions and working in most aspects of the business, that's what RE/MAX does. And this is what RE/MAX people do, is they change the way real estate is done around the world. You know, we talk a lot about our worldwide presence and so on, but it comes down to one agent and one family helping them find the dream of home ownership. And you know, I want to recognize certainly the leadership in the Philippines, and Chris, great having you on as a new RE/MAX partner. But this is what leaders do. They make things happen. And you've got a tremendous leadership group in the Philippines, I think now over 8 years and well established in the market there. But these words of that we're going to change the way real estate, you know, I personally felt like I was going to join a cause, because everything we got involved with, it wasn't just, well, you know, RE/MAX does that too. We wanted to know, how could we change the industry? When Mr. and Mrs. Liniger founded RE/MAX, it was built on some very valuable principles that we hold close to our heart today. Is we're not in the real estate business, we're in the real estate agent business. And when RE/MAX was formed in 1973, you had to look at the industry, and you realize that the agents were doing all the work. They were taking most of the risk. They were out in front with the customers, but yet the traditional split back then, they were only taking home half of what they would earn. And when Dave realized this, and he thought that top producers certainly should keep more of what they earn, he was a revolutionary, and he fought not only the local market in Colorado, but as we started expanding the industry, and has never let up. And whether it's technology, training, you know, education, brand programs, brand marketing awareness, whatever it might be, it's changed the industry. And so that's really our foundation. And you know, I think as we're going to talk about a little bit about the pandemic, there was no better company positioned to face a situation like this, because since 1973, we faced a lot of economic downturns, political environments. You know, now that we operate around the world, we've seen and experienced just about everything, and we know how to respond. So let's go ahead to the next slide, and it'll give you a little bit of a snapshot of where we are today. This is our current global map, actually 118 countries and territories. And to share a little bit of a story, when in the early days of RE/MAX, like I said, when I joined there, we were in 2 countries, US and Canada. But people said, well, this RE/MAX idea is great, but I don't think it'll work outside of Colorado or outside of the West. Oh, okay, maybe it'll work in the US. Okay, maybe it'll work in Canada, but it certainly won't work outside of North America. And here we sit today with 130 plus thousand people, you know, in over 118 countries. And it's all based on that dream that entrepreneurs have, is they're going to change the way real estate's done in the Philippines and Germany and Japan and China and Israel and all over the world, because, you know, our leaders, like I'll use the example there in the Philippines with Kenneth and Liz and John and Eddie and everybody, is they're the pioneers. They're the Dave Liniger in the Philippines. They're going to change the industry and build the foundation to help our agents and our brokers build their business. So anyway, a quick snapshot here. Let's go to the next slide and get into the conversation. So this is a couple weeks dated right now, but this is what we were facing with the lockdown status around the world. You know, the blue, a lot of countries were able to stay open. Australia, for the most part, operated pretty much throughout. But look in South America, just last Wednesday, Peru was finally released from lockdown. Brazil is coming out, and so on. And one of the beautiful things about having this global network, not only the footprint, but having the relationships with leaders around the world, is when we got into early March and we were looking at Italy and Germany and Israel and some of the countries that were facing the pandemic and the early lockdown, they were 3 or 4 weeks ahead of the US and many other countries. So we're going to talk a little bit about the communication in a moment, but that was so critical to see not only what they were facing from governments and communities and, you know, social distancing and different requirements. They could share with the network what they were dealing with right then and how they were responding. So that's what I think, you know, really positioned us to work through this to come out stronger on the other side. And we're starting to do that. So let's go ahead to the next slide. You know, I think the one statement, I just chose this photo. I love photography, and living in Colorado is pretty beautiful. But everybody had a choice going into the pandemic. And a simple quote of how you choose to see the world determines the world you see. And we saw very early on that a lot of independent real estate companies and agents and brokers and so on, they just were going to sit on the couch and see what everybody else was going to do. They were going to wait and see what the market told them, or what's going to happen. And that just wasn't the RE/MAX way. And we'll get into some of the details there. But let's go ahead to the next slide. We'll start talking about some of the responses. And as I mentioned, we were fortunate to have leaders out in front of this that were facing, dire circumstances. Italy, for example, once they were locked down, they could not leave their home except for the most basic essentials. And so we learned from them and talking about, what were they going to do to maintain communication with agents and brokers and the consumers. And just a couple ideas, and I won't read through all these, you can see the slides, but they focused on communicating with their network to make sure people had answers, had information. They became a centralized resource because if you remember back then, things were coming at a pretty fast pace and a lot of misinformation, if you will. But they created a program called Digital Solidarity, because once they realized that our agents and every real estate professional was not able to do their business, they saw this as an opportunity to provide training and education to the entire industry, not just to RE/MAX agents. And all of a sudden, on a either daily or weekly basis, they were providing great training and education. It spoke volumes about just integrity of RE/MAX, but also it said a lot to the independents that were at home going, well, once we work through this, maybe I'll take a look at RE/MAX. But many of the countries hosted career nights. As I'm sure in the Philippines, many countries faced unbelievable unemployment, especially in the hospitality and restaurants and bars and things like this. So a lot of young people were questioning, am I going to get my job back and so on. So RE/MAX hosted career nights just to learn about an opportunity in real estate. Maybe it's not something you want to do right this week, but certainly down the road to learn a little bit about more on the professional side of the real estate industry. Virtual training, of course, weekly calls. It was so important to make not only the consumer client, but the agent client, the broker client, feel like they were still connected. And so we had an overwhelming amount of communication. But as I say in that top line there, to watch people rally together to say, now, how did you do this? Or what did you do about this? Was pretty powerful. There at the bottom, we just mentioned we do a show every Tuesday that's live on Facebook, available around the world, simply called Good Morning RE/MAX. And similar to your Rediscover, we bring leaders from around the industry and to talk to our folks and offer support and innovation. So let's go to the next slide. Really focus on insight, guidance, and education. Zoom, as we know, was a game changer. But from our CEO, Adam Contos, and the entire leadership and every employee at RE/MAX, we were reaching out to the network. Adam was doing weekly podcasts on mind, body, and business. Just, it was very important to stay healthy during this time because your family was your priority. And, we weren't able to know what everybody was facing in their own individual situation. But once we started doing education, both from the LLC side, we matched that with the regional education and so on. And we're, and Zoom, absolutely a game changer. With technology has been around for years, but everyone was, from kids on up to grandparents, they learned how to use Zoom and how to communicate. We're real excited for the first time in our history, 47-year history. In August, we're going to be able to provide our broker conference, which is called the BOC, Broker Owner Conference. It's going to be available to every RE/MAX office in the world because of the virtual environment. A 2-day program, I think it's a $99 registration fee to hear some of the best speakers in the world in this virtual format. And I can tell you the system, the demo of the system, it's literally like being in a RE/MAX convention center. There's meetups, there's a marketplace, there's even a lobby bar for networking and happy hours and things like that. So, but this last bullet point, one of the things I want to mention is when we started seeing in many countries that the government decided that real estate was not an essential business. We saw that very early on. And I tell you, RE/MAX people responded. Our CEO sent a letter to pretty much every brokerage in the world, giving them talking points about how to talk to government officials to get real estate as listed as an essential business. Because regardless of the economic environment, families have to buy and sell during this time, and to totally lock it down was very difficult. In Italy, for example, I used them a number of times, but they ran a full page ad in the national newspaper telling everybody that would listen how critical it was to get our business back in action. In the US, I think only 2 states kind of held out, but we fought those battles at every single level. And that's what leaders do. That's what good companies do, is you attack it from every single level, because as Dave said from the very beginning of RE/MAX, we do what's right for our agents, and we fight to make sure that they're building their business with every available advantage. Okay, we can take a look at the next slide there. And of course, we had to keep people entertained, and some of the creativity from regions around the world. And these were all first time to host a Zoom conference. And Argentina did a convention with 3,000 affiliates via Zoom. They were able to even host an awards night. They had people dressed in black tie and evening gowns and dancing with music, but they were dancing at their home, but they were able to celebrate their awards and their recognition. In Israel, 100-member broker-owner meeting. These are happening on a regular basis. RE/MAX Portugal, live workout classes to keep people entertained at home, cooking classes in Peru. I want to point out the leaders in Peru, even though they were shut down until last week, they recruited more than 400 agents into RE/MAX Peru. So they were not sitting on the sidelines. They were out talking to folks. Language classes, comedian, entertainment, happy hours, just a lot of things to keep people engaged, involved, and feel good about what they were part of. Okay, we can go to the next slide. I think it's very important that we don't just say, well, things will get back to normal. They will not get back to what we would call the old normal. Things are different. And when I look at the, simple statement of leaders takes actions, they not only take actions, but they vet changes, innovations, creativity to ensure success as we move forward. Communication, action are the 2 elements that led to our success through this program. And it was reflected in our agents, because what we heard early on was RE/MAX agents took time to earn another designation or professional certification, or perhaps learn a new language. But most importantly, they spent time talking to their clients. Every family situation was different, and unfortunately in the families that were affected by COVID, where they could not visit family members in the hospital, or the worst case scenario where couldn't attend to elderly folks that were, quarantined as well. So families were facing difficult situation. Agents simply reached out to say, I care. How are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help you? Do you have all the information? Are you connected to food delivery services in your community? Things like this. So the agent not only became a trusted advisor on the real estate side, they became a friend of the family, because they didn't know what everybody was facing. We're so aware of situations where all of a sudden now everybody's at home. we're having homeschooling, we're having multiple offices at home. The kids are here 24 hours a day, and so a lot of things went on, but they were proactive. And I think one of the major lessons that we learned, and that will stay with us moving forward, is a lot of times I think in real estate, you look for systems that can apply to a lot of people, or maybe generalize your marketing, things like this. But to me, one of the most powerful changes that we all will share is the one-on-one customer experience, and to provide a world-class service to each client, because each client is unique. And that carries over. It's the real estate consumer, it's the broker to the agent. If you're looking to join RE/MAX, look at the entire relationship you have with the network, not only around the world, but certainly, in your local market. But what we found agents doing, as I mentioned, taking training, education, upgrading their portfolio. One of the lines we heard and we shared was, don't use this time to clean out your closet. Use this time to clean out your database. Find those lead generation tools, but maintain contact. Review your protocol, review your marketing materials. And most importantly, with the onset of virtual tours and all the creative tools that we saw in technology, are you sharing those with your clients? Did you upgrade and improve all your listings, the quality of photography, the data, the information in your listings? Make sure they're relevant for today's consumers. And I think, at RE/MAX, we always like to issue challenges. And as we look forward, we say, what are you going to do different moving forward? And we hope, and what we're hearing from a lot of folks is the way that they individualize their service and provide that world-class experience to their clients. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This was another area that I think will continue on. It's a huge opportunity, as we mentioned with Zoom. I can tell you, we started at 6 a.m. this morning and calls with Europe, and we live on Zoom. There's an old saying about management by walking around. Well, today it's management by Zooming around. Just in the last few days, I've spoken India, Canada, the U.S., now the Philippines, and it's truly wonderful. But we're able to communicate, and like Miguel said, to be able to reach out and bring some of the top real estate experts into your living room or your home office. But you have to be engaged. One of the things that the founders of RE/MAX instilled in our people, not only in the early years, but it continued, is you can't just have a seat at the table. You want to be, in RE/MAX terms, you want to turn the table over. You want that seat at the table, but you want to make sure your voice is heard. Just for an example, in the U.S., we have nearly 400 RE/MAX associates that hold a leadership position in local, state, regional, or national trade associations in the real estate industry. And this is very powerful. Certainly when something like this happens, we're at the forefront of information, education. I was able to reach out to the Secretary of Housing in Washington and get him to come on Good Morning RE/MAX to talk direct to RE/MAX agents about what they need to know during this time. So it's building on those relationships. We see here Elizabeth Mendenhall, who was the last year's president of the NAR, National Association of Realtors, but both within the network and through our membership, that we saw RE/MAX folks were in the media. They were on social media sharing tips and ideas for their families and consumers and so on. But it's so important, and especially in your market as you're growing not only the RE/MAX, but you're bringing on great partners like Nook, and you're going to expand your footprint. It's important to also guide the industry, whether it be governance or rules and bylaws and things like that, but be part of the solutions. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Miguel, give me a thumbs up if we're doing okay, and is all right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm a creative person. I still kind of paint. I restore classic cars. So I love anything creative. But the creativity and innovations. We saw every kind of mask in the world. Here's a remask, I believe it was called. But the onset of technology, virtual tours, Matterport, Box Brownie, I want to talk about for just a second. This is one of our global partners, and they specialize in staging homes in a virtual environment. So they can take a completely empty space. Let's say it's a moderate price home. They'll put price appropriate furnishings, wall coverings, every accessory in the home in a virtual environment. Also working in the commercial space. They can take an empty unit and turn it into a restaurant, a medical office, and a working office, so that the consumer or the client can see all the variables. They can also do residential restoration. Maybe it's an older property, and through the incredible technology of their virtual processes, they can renovate the home, maybe take that wall out or look at that expanded space. And of course, in today's environment, families are going to want to know, well, what's my home school look like, or my workout area, and things like this. So just, I encourage you to take a look, whether you're with Remax or not, take a look at Box Brownie. And Matterport does 3D modeling and drone tours and this type of thing. A couple fun ideas that we heard about was asking the seller to host Facebook Live and give their own tour of their own home. And what we found in that was total transparency, where the family might be walking through and sharing memories, but also say, well, that our water heater here's been here a few years, and you may want to put that on your list. Or just this wonderful transparency of sharing what was their home, and now it's going to be on the market. In Turkey, a very creative solution. The client stood outside with a drone pilot, and they actually flew the drone through the home. It was sanitized prior to going in, but they could hover in a room, and the family who was looking at the property could direct the pilot, well, go down the hallway, or let's go upstairs, or show me in that closet, whatever it was, but through an actual drone flying through the home. But on the collaboration side among professionals in the real estate space is learning how to get the deal done. And we, here's some of the terms that came up: curbside closing, drive-through closing. This photo here on the right is a gentleman meeting the different clients and each of the participants in a parking lot, and moving from car to car to have all the documentation signed. One thing I'm very proud of in my role in industry relations is I sit on a number of boards in the real estate industry, and a lot of this conversation early on was among lenders and title companies and appraisers and all the different people that are involved in that process to work together. We really pushed hard for electronic signatures. That was pretty typical in real estate, but you didn't see it in some of the other industries. And that's where a loud and powerful voice can make a huge difference to get these things done. So a lot of great support in the industry. We'll go to the next slide, and we'll move through here. I want to be respectful to your time. Just a few other ideas that came up. Deliver the unexpected. We talked about the experience. Great time to take a look at your business plan. What are you going to adjust in post-COVID coming out of this? New skills, training, certification, so on. Consider going paperless. Now, I've been at Remax a long time and had a printer right on my desk, and I can tell you I've printed about 5 documents since I've been home in almost 4 months. So you can make it work. So let's go to the next slide. I'm going to touch on a few areas here. This is close to my heart. For 28 and a half years, I've represented Remax to our partnership with Children's Miracle Network Hospital. And as Miguel mentioned, it's a network of 170 hospitals throughout North America. And when we started in 1992, we set up a very simple program called the Remax Miracle Home Program. And when an agent in North America lists a home, they can say to their client, your home is a miracle home. And when it sells, when the closing is finished, the agent, not the family, the agent makes a donation on behalf of the family, and 100% of their donation, whether it's $1 or $100, 100% goes to their local Children's Miracle Network hospital. So, of course, we don't take a penny. The organization does not take a penny. 100% goes to their local hospital. You can drive down to your local CMN hospital and say, what did you do with my money? And you can see how it impacts the lives of children. We touch 9 million families a year through this partnership. But more importantly, that's what we do in North America. But like in the Philippines, you support a children's cancer program, and RE/MAX agents and offices around the world find a cause that they believe in, because we have a culture of giving. Our RE/MAX professionals, top producers in the world, they are very generous, and they want to give back to communities to improve where they live and work and play. So I encourage you, again, if you're with RE/MAX, we have great programs. If you're not, get involved in something to make a difference. So let's move on. We've got a few more things to cover I want to share with you. I'll just touch on this briefly. Every country leader that we talk to, this is a topic of interest with affordable housing. In many countries, the cost of construction through fees and permits and just the cost before a shovel goes in the ground have become like 20 to 25% of the cost of a new home. And quite honestly, this is an issue for all of us to deal with. So I would encourage you to learn about associations in your particular community that are supporting programs like infill, building moderate price homes closer into the urban areas. Now with the pandemic, we've learned that we can pretty much work everywhere, and we're going to see a lot of lifestyle changes for where people want to live. But affordable housing is critical. One of the dilemmas that we've seen is younger people, millennials, for example, are getting pushed farther away from their workplace, longer commutes, this type of thing, because they have to go out further to find affordable housing. So we're getting ready to roll out a program in the U.S. Kind of based on this to really teach our agents to serve all families, regardless of the price point. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Yep. New construction, just real quick, I think it's going to be unique in every market. But as I said before, families who have now spent 3 or 4 months at home, they're starting to evaluate their home. Is it right for us? We need room for schooling, a workout area, entertainment center, things like this. So I think we're going to see some interesting trends in new construction to meet consumer expectations. Now, again, on the technology front, there's this term called hipturbia, a new phrase where young people, younger buyers, for example, that want that urban experience, now they can live about everywhere because they can take technology with them, and remote work is going to be commonplace. Okay, next slide. Yep. I know you guys have an opportunity to look at this in your own market. I want to touch on this real quick, but every market we've looked at, it seems like global real estate investment is still progressing quite nicely. The tourism and hospitality, I know it's been affected there in the Philippines. Occupancy has gone from 70% average to 35% average in hotels, and lower in some cases. But real estate investment is still a great opportunity. Just last week, we hosted a World Property Network with leaders from 7 countries, and I'll just touch on a few of these. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. But for the most part, most of the investor community has a very positive position right now, especially as we move out of the pandemic. New Zealand commented about how many hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders are coming back to move in, and they're going to be working to keep up with housing demand. Dubai, in 40 years, they've gone from, I think, 45,000 people to 9 million. So very aggressive, 80% from outside of that market. Very innovative, huge opportunities for investors from all over the world. I've got a photo of a new tower coming up. Interesting with Canada, they're really increased visibility on the global stage. You see their growth there.
but they're bringing in over 340,000 immigrants annually. Excuse me. Not able to keep up with that housing demand, but Toronto and Western Canada, Vancouver, some of those markets growing and growing for investors as well. Let's go to the next slide. Just mentioning here quick, UK, London, of course, the central financial center for the world. India has seen a 37% increase in foreign investment. And I just want to showcase these two properties. Excuse me. Is the lower photo there. That's the new projected tower that's even taller than the existing world largest tower. But this new development in Toronto, world famous architects putting together, it looks like 5 mountains on King Street, but it's an entirely new concept of residential retail lifestyle kind of development. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah, and so Remax Collection is our luxury brand, and the Remax Commercial, as Miguel mentioned, both integral parts of the Remax organization. These have been in the Remax system for many years. They're separate brands, and their organizations designed for those agents that either want to specialize full-time in commercial or luxury, or we have education and training and certification programs for agents that just want to expand their portfolio to include these two market segments. Let's take a look real quick at some luxury trends. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour, but some of the things we're hearing, the expectations of these very affluent clients, I think they really expect their real estate professional to offer concierge level services, to have the absolute best in technology and viewing tools and this type of thing. So the bar is very high when you work with these affluent clients. We are supporting this. We just introduced a new Luxury Live, which is a global luxury education course for our agents to really learn how to serve this market. But, you know, we say that pretty much during economic downturns and so on, that luxury real estate still seems to move pretty well. You might see some of the real high-end stuff slow down, but those that have the money can seem to really spend it regardless of economic time. Let's look at commercial. We have commercial representation in over 80 countries and very large commercial brokerage network, which in today's world, working with investors is absolutely critical, because you might have a client there in the Philippines that looks at New York, or the West Coast in the U.S., or Toronto, or some other market. They can talk to a Remax affiliate, that one of their peers, to make those connections, and we see that happening all the time. I think just the note here on commercial is every forecast that I've read from all the major companies talk about tremendous movement in the commercial space. Companies are going to be evaluating with remote work policies. Do we need this much space, or do we need different type of space? The urban to suburban relocation programs. It's still a very good market. I think they're still projecting 3 to 5% growth across the board, but every property type is doing pretty well, even multifamily and things like that. With rents, you probably see the rent roll that's increasing dramatically over the years. But we shared a few options available around the world, but anytime you have interest, you can get on the Remax system and meet a commercial person pretty much anywhere in the world. And then we just have a slide here from our founder to kind of wrap up. We can go to the next slide. So this is one of Mr. Leninger's famous quotes, is you can't do today's business with yesterday's methods and expect to be in business tomorrow. You have to adapt to succeed. And this was never more critical than the fact that the real estate industry was able to pivot coming out of or going into the pandemic. If you owned a hotel, you were in the hotel business. There weren't a lot of options there. But in the real estate, you could, like we said, get new training, upgrade your portfolio, your listings, present to the clients, communicate, and so on. So I think this statement is what Remax was built on, is we've never let up. The tremendous stories that, we've always worked for the benefit of the agents. And certainly we talk about helping each individual build their business moving forward. But it was built on a passion to change the way real estate is done in the world. So I thank you. I welcome all of you to take a serious look at Remax, and together we are Remax. So thank you very much for this honor to be with you. And Miguel, I'll turn it back to you. And I hope there was a few good points in there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We did learn a lot, Mike. I personally felt that what you said really did help us. In fact, what you said was very relevant in terms of, and we've actually applied it here ourselves in Remax Philippines with having daily webinars during the lockdown, keeping in constant communication with our offices, our agents, and really being that support that they needed at such a, keeping up with all that information and all that, so to speak, all that, there's a little bit of panic, but it was nice to get in front of it a little bit. Just to see.
And thank you again. You shared that, with so many other people on the global call every week, and that was so important to be able to share not only what you were doing, but to learn from others. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So let me just check if there are any questions. So it doesn't look like there are any questions, but a lot of comments. So maybe I'll have one last question for you, Mike, before we leave. You spoke about luxury and commercial and not moving, and we're looking at the same trends here, that luxury is still sort of, people with money will always still have money, and it seems to not really be affecting. We have ourselves, our network, have closed some high-end deals as well, and also some leases. But what you said about commercial, about people moving, do you feel that's true across the globe? Have you seen this in other regions as well, like in?
Yeah, I think yes, because just look at businesses in general, and this is, going back a couple years when retailers, big box stores, we call them, are starting to evaluate, do they need 50,000 square feet of retail, or can they get by with 15,000 square feet of retail and use the other 35,000 for a close-in distribution center? There's a concept called the last mile. We see it with Amazon around the world that, in my age group, you could order something and say, well, you'll get it in 5 or 6 days. I think younger buyers, they'll say, well, I want it in 5 or 6 hours. So businesses have to change. Certainly a mobile society. I know in commercial space, a lot of flexibility in house spaces, pop-up restaurants. My son's a chef in New York, but he's opened restaurants, pop-up restaurants in different environments in different markets. So a lot of creativity. This new development in Toronto on King Street, that is an entirely new approach of building a new city within a city, because it's a lifestyle center. And if you think of the commercial applications, but I think the pandemic did cause businesses to evaluate how they structure their space, both with remote work and ancillary services that you bring into your business.
Yeah. So, that I think what you said is reflecting a little bit here also. So as I'm hearing it, I'm seeing it also happening here. So, so thank you for sharing that. We do actually have, so there are some comments. So it's by June Cam. So.
Oh, I see that, June. Yes, we'll find a buyer. That sounds like great property. Everything I read, you guys had a great run up over the last 4 or 5 years. Real estate's real strong, and I'm sure that will return. As we all get things moving again. But look like the Philippine market, not only for investors, but strong residential presence as well. So, get that on the Remax network, and I'm sure we can find a buyer.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So thank you for that. So Mike, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for your time. I do know. Oh, sorry. Before we go, last. So we just got a question that popped in, and if you don't mind, we answer this last one question before we let you. All right. So Earl Ebriega is asking, can you share what the biggest change that happened in real estate there in the States? So what maybe, if there was one thing, what was the biggest change?
Well, the simple answer is just serving individual clients, individual circumstances, situations. I think all the economists talked about a 10, 12 to 14%, reduction in sales, but prices have held. And, even though we have huge unemployment numbers, a lot of folks in that particular unemployment segment weren't typical homeowners. They were younger people working in the hospitality industry, restaurants, and so on. But I think the biggest change that we'll see is the focus on the client experience. And I think agents during this time not only increased their personal, portfolios we mentioned, but also their business plan, their approach to serving clients. Because I think we realize that the family, certainly the most important, center of our life, but now it's based at home and how we're going to interact with each other and the caring. I think we, not RE/MAX, but just communities in general, when you reached out to your neighbors and asked if they had food, or can I run an errand for you, or, the social distancing respect that people have for each other. I think that is a game changer. I think people will approach different, certainly real estate business, a lot different because of delivering that world-class experience for each of their clients. And I know that's what RE/MAX was built on, and we're certainly going to promote that heavily. So, Earl, thank you. And to the audience, thank you so much. It's just an honor to be with you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Good night and have a good day.
Thanks.
All right. So thank you all for attending today. But before I let you go, I would like to announce a few things. So we have a few events coming up. So this is one that we would like to highlight. So it's called Momentum Masterclass with Marissa Prats Garcia. And our topic will be building strong professional relationships, real estate ethics, and etiquette. It will be happening on July 22, Wednesday at 1 p.m. So if you want to check out more details, you can check it out over here. So you can register at RE/MAX, so rem.ax/mmjuly 2020. So again, this is actually free for all our RE/MAX associates. So this is something that we hold monthly, training for free. But for people outside our network, we do have 30 slots available for you at only 550 pesos each. So it will have 3 CPD units again. July 22, Wednesday, 1 p.m. We hope to see you there. And before we go, one last thing. I would like to thank everyone for coming, RE/MAX Philippines, the real estate professionals. And again, if you want to grow your business with us, if you want to maximize your real estate career, whether you are a broker, whether you already have an existing brokerage, whether you're just trying to get into it and want to explore the real estate industry, please contact us through our email at info@remax.ph. We are looking to expand. We are looking to increase our presence here in the Philippines, and we would like the right and the best professionals to do it with. So please contact us at info@remax.ph, and we can talk about it and consult with you. So yeah, that's it. That's all we have for today, and we'll be back again soon for our next Rediscover. So we do hope that you join us then. So again, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Miguel Naval, Business Dev Consultant of RE/MAX Philippines. Have a good day